Welcome to the Rocky Top Rewind, everybody. I'm Eric Kane alongside Brent Hubbs here on the Volquest.com YouTube channel. And as always, over on the Journalist Quarters of Volquest.com. Appreciate you guys for being here each and every Sunday night. We do it during football season. Programming note, we will not have one next Sunday night because of the open day. But typically when there's a football game, we are right here Sunday nights at 9 o'clock Eastern Time. Going to recap everything that was Tennessee's loss to Oklahoma here tonight. Take your questions through the top of the hour. Matt Ray is going to come on and talk about recruiting. A couple of commits here on a Sunday evening, so we'll discuss that. And as always, do want to give a thanks to our proud sponsors, Spivey King and Spivey LLP, for being a part of the show. You can call them today if you have a need, a free consultation at 423-245-4185. You can check them out online at SpiveyKingandSpiveyLLP.com. If you got a problem, let them find a solution for you. That is TN Trial Lawyers. All right, Brent Hubbs, kind of a bummer of a weekend. Tennessee, the football game, obviously you lost. We'll talk about it all. We'll take the questions, but ultimately this was a game where Tennessee got in its own way. Tennessee couldn't overcome, and the end result is a loss at home, your third loss of the year, and that third loss is going to put you on the outside of the playoff picture looking in.
Yeah, I mean, even taking that out of the equation, just she didn't play well, and I think that's the frustrating thing for everybody is that you just haven't played a complete game. And when I mean complete game, I mean from offense, defense, special teams, coaching, all of those things. It just doesn't feel like you played complete. And I don't want to take anything away from Oklahoma. That defensive front is legit. Mm-hmm. That front seven is really good. But, I mean, the fact that Tennessee was down 6 at the half, with the numbers where they were and the way Tennessee went up and down the field, just can't happen, man. I mean, you just can't. I mean, you say it every week, but like, it's not just the fumble; it's the fact that the fumble was returned 71 yards for a touchdown, and it's also the fact that you were in field goal range when the fumble happened, and you were on the cusp of going up 14-0 and blowing that place to, just sending it into a frenzy like crazy. I mean, just get out of, just kind of get out of your own way a little bit, and that's the frustrating part with this team. You look at it, even in the second half, Eric, you're up 17-16. Yeah, you give up a 3rd and long to the quarterback run, which should never happen, but you still get a stop on that drive. Even though you're backed up, you get a stop. Can't make a first down. Go back to the third week of the season. You force a turnover. You're up 5. You've got a chance to go up 2 scores against Georgia. You can't get out of your own way offensively to go finish that thing off. Alabama, you throw the interception at the half, which is a game changer. Then you come back in the second half. You get the absolute perfect start. You get the fumble. And then you go backwards and you do nothing with it. It's those things that are just like, that are just maddening for this football team right now. Because as good as Oklahoma was in their front seven, you didn't walk out of there last night going, man, Oklahoma's just a lot better than Tennessee, because they're not. And again, I'm not taking anything away from Oklahoma. Credit to them. They went and got it done. But, I mean, gosh, Tennessee's got to help themselves more than they're helping them right now.
Yeah, Oklahoma's defense was good. That front seven was nasty. You and I were talking about it after the game, and but to your point, I mean, Tennessee still put up 456 yards of total offense. Tennessee scored 27 points. Tennessee had 28 first downs. And again, to your point, we'll get into it. Like all those those stats don't necessarily equate to just 27 points. Like it should be so many more points. And again, another frustrating thing about this game is you wasted a really good defensive effort. I mean, was the defense perfect? No. John Mateer got loose for a couple, especially in the second half. John Mateer didn't play a very good game, I don't think, stat-wise. His running really helped that line a little bit. But, this defense has been so inconsistent, played real consistent football. I mean, they held Oklahoma to 1 for 5 on third downs in the first half, 99 total yards. Gave up 26 offensive points. 12 of those came off field goals. Three of those field goals were 50 yards or more. 13 points off turnovers. It's frustrating because you got some sacks, a couple on third downs as well, and you forced some takeaways, and the defense played consistent, and that's not been the case all year long. And so it's just amplifies the frustration because this offense that can usually just go and score and put up points just couldn't do it against Oklahoma because it couldn't get out of its own way. Not because Oklahoma was, I mean, they played well, but Tennessee couldn't get out of its own way with those three first half turnovers. I mean, Joey Aguilar is a big reason Tennessee lost yesterday. He's also a big reason Tennessee's put up all these yards and points and all these wins to this point in the season. I mean, I'll ride with him, whenever. His 2 interceptions were really bad. I'm not going to put the scoop and score touchdown on him. I mean, that was pretty much a blindside hit. He didn't have a chance. But, he admitted in the first interception, he admitted in post game, it's like, hey, they got me there. They disguised the safety, and you can see it on film. He just never looked at him. The second one was just a heave up into the air, man. You got to be smarter than that. But those 3 turnovers obviously were the story of the football game, in my opinion. And so it's so frustrating because you wasted a very good defensive effort, a game where I think Idris Farouk, Edwin Spillman played their tails off defensively.
Well, I mean, you had 12 offensive possessions. Here's how 5 of them ended: missed field goal, interception, fumble that they scored on. I mean, and turnover on downs. That's your 5. That's the 5 deal. I mean, you had 2 3 and outs. The rest of the time you moved the ball up and down, but you just couldn't get out of your own way. And it did. It wasted a lot of things that Tennessee did a good enough job at. Their tackling was much improved. They only missed 5 tackles in this game. Look at what Farouk did, how fast he played. I thought Ty Redmond played much better. He clearly wasn't worried about getting beat deep over the top, so he played more aggressive. He played the slants well. I mean, there were some things that went well for Tennessee that you say, man, that was a positive. But those are not going to make you feel any better about what happened, because you just did not take advantage of the opportunity you had. You had plenty of opportunities in front of you.
No doubt. We'll run through some of the questions here. We'll start with Keith here. Brent, aside from the injuries, from what you know or are aware of, what do you believe is the primary factors for the inconsistency in our defensive performances this year?
Well, up until last night, I would have told you it starts with tackling. I mean, when you miss 12 tackles a game and you're giving up, 1,100 yards after the catch going into the game last night, there's your inconsistencies in defense. I mean, you got to be a better tackling team. And last night they did a good job of limiting yards after the catch. And they obviously, again, none of them were worried about getting it thrown over their head, so they played a little tighter coverage, and they did somewhat of a better job with some of the rush lanes. They got obviously out-contained a couple of different times. So, I mean, I think the inconsistency is just the simple fact that people haven't consistently done their job. Injuries hurt at the corner position, but injuries had nothing to do with missing 12 tackles a game. It didn't. I think you're seeing, I like what Edwin Spillman has done the last couple of weeks, 3 weeks. I think you're seeing him really grow into the role and get much more comfortable there. I'm curious to see if Farouk can kind of elevate his game and move forward. I mean, there was a lot of, not that he was going to be an all-conference safety or he was going to be this, but there was a lot of confidence in the preseason that Farouk could play and do some of the things Farouk did last night. He just hasn't done that. And the question is now, does he build off that and become a more consistent player? We'll see.
Yeah. Really aggressive. He's played aggressive all year long. It's just, poor angling, sometimes lack of not focus, just lack of communication in the back end. But I like his upside, and he certainly flashed last night. Robert with the super chat, he wants to know if Boo is finished. It's interesting, man. He returned punts last night, did not log a defensive snap at all. We know he had a really rough game at Kentucky a week ago. What do you make of Boo Carter not playing any defense last night?
We'll see what happens. I mean, anything can happen with Boo at this point, with the way that whole situation's been handled. It's kind of been all over the map. It's like one game he's not going to play, one game he's not going to return punts, the next game he is going to return punts, and one game he's going to play 12 snaps, and the next game he's going to play 25 or 30 snaps, and then the next day he doesn't play at all. So we'll see. I mean, I don't – at this point in the season, I don't think you're counting on him to do anything right now. I mean, it just doesn't feel like it. It never looked like he was close to going in the game on defense. It never watched it on the sideline. all that thing. It never looked like he was ready to play, or there was any thought of putting him in the game. Now, I mean, I don't know. I mean, is he dealing with some? I mean, somebody's post over here that I guess his mom is saying, or somebody said they may be banged up. He wasn't listed on any injury report, and I don't know. I mean, I don't count on anything from him at this point. I'm not trying to be mean to the kid. I just don't think that, if somebody says he's gone and he's not going to finish out the season, it wouldn't shock me. If somebody says he plays 40 snaps, against New Mexico State, I won't be shocked either with the way that whole thing's been managed.
Yeah. Also, I think that if he was banged up, he probably wouldn't be returning punts because, I mean, there was a couple that he tried to return, didn't just try to fair catch, and he muffed one and returned one for about 5 yards or whatever. So I don't know. That whole deal has been weird all year, dating back to the summer, and it got even weirder the other night. So I mean, obviously, Boo Carter's not a major contributor for you this year, and it's just kind of is what it is in that regard. I want to get your thoughts on the 4th and 1. Tennessee went for it, jumbo package, threw it to Jack Van Dorselaer, kind of off the face mask, and that's kind of all she wrote right there. What was my take? And I've seen a lot of people can't stand this call and all that. I mean, that's fine. Hindsight's 2020. I saw where you wrote about it, and I agree with you. They wasted a lot of time before that to call a timeout, and I would agree that was not a very good use of your clock. But in the end result was you had a guy wide open for a first down, and you just didn't execute. He got held up a little bit with that end, coming out off the line of scrimmage, but I mean, you had a play, he was open, just didn't execute it. So I don't necessarily hate the 4th down play call. He was open. What do you think about that 4th down play call when Tennessee was trying to go for it there towards the end?
Well, if you execute it, it's a first down, and we're not having a conversation. My only issue with that play call is I think you're asking Nathan Robinson to do something hard off the edge there. I don't mind Nathan Robinson if he's just straight blocking somebody ahead on a half-yard gain, but I mean, is he supposed to get that blitzing guy on the outside? Is he supposed to pass set there? I mean, I don't really know what you're asking him to do off of that edge. Is he supposed to just turn that guy loose? He kind of got in his way, and conveniently they bumped Van Dorselaer coming out. I mean, I don't have an issue with the play call. It's got to be executed better. My thing with that, though, and here's where I am on 4th down plays. Particularly, I mean, you're not going to run it there. It's a yard and a half. You proved earlier in the game on 3rd and 2 when you ran student body right with Joey Aguilar and you went -1. You're not going to line up and run it for a yard and a half on them. My question is that your best personnel to get you 2 yards, a yard and a half? And I don't mean that Jack Van Dorselaer can't play or can't catch, because he obviously can, but is that a better play than, Braylon Staley coming in on a motion deal and kind of in and out type deal, or that Jalen Hyatt play that we saw Tennessee score on in 2022 against Alabama, where, they kind of they just flip it out to him and he's in a full sprint when the ball is snapped. And I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things. I think you asked Nathan, I'm not sure what you were asking him to do, but it seemed like it was hard on Nathan Robinson. But I mean, Van Dorselaer's got to get his head around. He's got to make that catch. It's open. So I don't mind the call. I like that call better than trying to just run it for a yard and a half up there, because Tennessee has not shown the ability to be able to line up and push the pile up front. So the call doesn't bother me necessarily. I think you always question some of your personnel use in those situations. Is there a better way to get somebody open there? I don't know. The guy was wide open and you just didn't make, you didn't make the play.
Yeah. That was another one of those drives that ended inside the Oklahoma 40-yard line. It was after Oklahoma scored 10 straight points, 26-17, leading in the fourth quarter. Tennessee was driving, but Tennessee stalled out on the opponent's side of the field. I will say that's the second time in 3 games where you've lined up in that jumbo and you've tried to throw the ball and it's not ended well. So again, it's like, well, if you're not going to run it, just spread things out and do just run your offense essentially. But the 4th and 1 play call and it just wasn't executed. Sometimes you're not going to make those plays. I think Jack Van Dorselaer is going to be a good player. Just didn't make that play. It is what it is, and I think it's unfortunate, but I don't think it's much more than that in my opinion.
Well, and I think this too. I mean, they've repped that play dozens and dozens of times. I don't know how many times they've repped it where he got bumped and knocked off line.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That just is one of those weird things that happened there, based on how Oklahoma played it and whatever they did. So that's probably not how you probably don't rep it by banging him off somebody and practicing it that way. So that was kind of a new thing.
Had some questions. I don't know where they went, but a couple of people asking, why did Tennessee abandon the run? Well, where's the middle of the field passing? 4 carries for you had the stat. Was it 4 running back carries in the second half? And
Yes.
Deshaun Bishop had 2 of those.
Deshaun Bishop had 1 on the opening possession, and then they ran it with Star Thomas after the turnover twice, and then the other one was I think it might have been a Peyton Lewis run in the second half. I think Star had 2 second half carries, Bishop had 1, and Peyton Lewis had 1.
Tennessee, obviously not a good day running the football, 63 yards. Running backs had 70 yards, but you have to account for the 4 quarterback sacks for Joey Aguilar. The second lowest rushing total of the Josh Heupel era, 55 yards against Georgia in 2021 was the lowest. Tennessee, I mean, clearly the passing game's its best option, but you gotta be as balanced, or at least you can't be completely one dimensional. And Tennessee was completely one dimensional in this football game. I felt like they weren't patient enough. And of course, you got down at points in times and the clock was getting a little bit lower there in the fourth quarter. I recognize all that, but it felt like they weren't patient enough with the run game in the second half. I mean, obviously, I think you share that viewpoint. Why do you think that is?
Well, because they couldn't run it. I mean, they didn't have any success, so they felt like they were beating their head against the wall. I think the challenge for them and the challenge for Tennessee is how do you create some run game stuff with it not being a traditional handoff? Swing passes to the backside of the backfield. They got to catch it better. I know Bishop had some catches late there, but I mean, Oklahoma was playing back. But what do you do to try to generate essentially an extension of the run game without lining up and running at it? And the fact of the matter is Tennessee's not run the football nearly as well as I thought they would run the football. They particularly haven't run the football well the last 2 weeks. And I know, I mean, I can't believe you're critical of the run game against Kentucky. You put the game away or whatever, but you averaged less than 3 yards a carry in the first half. They took it away from you, stacked the box, whatever. So you got to figure out how to do some run game stuff in maybe a non-traditional sense. I think that's going to be a challenge for Tennessee moving forward, but you do have to run the football better than what you've run it. And you've got to figure out some way to do that. And I don't know what the answer to it is, but you got to be more effective running the football than what you were. And I'm surprised that they haven't been more effective this year running the football.
I am too. Again, history has told us that it doesn't matter. I mean, you'd rather have Dylan Sampson back there. Don't get me wrong, but you can run the football with Jabari Small, with Jalen Wright, with Dylan Sampson, with Tyon Evans. History's shown us that you can run the football in this offense. Hasn't been as successful this season so far.
Well, and here's the other thing too. I think there's a line that Tennessee is blurring a little bit in terms of the whole let it rip aggressiveness and greed. And Joey Aguilar told me after the Kentucky game, we were talking, and he said, I forced a couple punts in that game because I was greedy. I tried to get chunk plays. I tried to go and just didn't take the easy stuff. I think part of the extension of your run game can be a little bit of taking the easy stuff. And I think they kind of got caught up at times in, chunk plays and trying to chunk it and get a 20-yard gain instead of a, hey, let's throw a 5-yard out and play 2nd and 5. So I think there are some things there that they have to be careful that they're not getting too greedy looking for the explosive all the time.
Yeah, Joey Aguilar in the game was only 4 of 7 for passes 10 to 19 yards, so that intermediate range. Only 7 pass attempts. He had 10 pass attempts of 20 yards or more. He had 20 pass attempts in the short range and 5 behind the line of scrimmage. But in that intermediate, only 7 compared to 10, where he was only 3 of 10, 20 yards or more down the field after going 7 for 7 in that category against Kentucky. I want to go to Donovan here. Donovan brings up a point that I think is worth discussing in this era of college football. season ain't over. We need to finish this one out right. We can go 10-3. Nobody wants Vandy celebrating a playoff spot in Neyland. I mean, all that's true, but you're out of the playoffs, okay? And so you can still finish 9-3. I think if you polled 100 Tennessee fans back in June or July and you said you can finish 9-3, 90% would say, yeah, that's successful. Let's roll. Things change when you see how effective Joey Aguilar's been and how effective this offense has been. I get that. But you're kind of in a weird time, and we talked about this on the 2-minute drill and on the post game mini pod. You lose this game and it hurts. Then you go into an off week. Then you're coming off an off week to play New Mexico State. So you got about 3 weeks before you get up to play a football game against Florida, and you still have an opportunity to go down there and do something you haven't done since 2003. You win that game. You beat New Mexico State, and then, of course, if you beat Vanderbilt, you do finish 9-3, and you're probably going to Florida playing in a higher echelon of a bowl game. And I know a lot of people don't get hyped up for bowl games anymore. It's college football playoff or bust. How do you think this team responds? How do you think this team is going to maneuver this last month of the regular season when, again, there's not going to be a whole lot of juice for, until November 22nd when Tennessee goes to Florida?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I think it's a great question because but I don't know that it's an answerable question because this is different. Once you've been to the playoffs, it changes all of your expectation. So when you don't get there now, there's much greater disappointment. When you have not attained that, you probably are like, man, I'd like to experience what that feels like. But once you get there, it's another – okay, we didn't make it. How do you handle this? I mean, Kirby Smart talked about that the other day, and he's right. It's, for the blue bloods, for the big name schools, the haves and all those things, it's playoff or bust. And if fans feel that way, players think that way too.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the question is, how does Josh Heupel handle this football team moving forward? You better have a good handle on your team, and you better understand some of the things that guys are going through right now. I said this on the Extra Point TV show in Knoxville this morning. What have we seen the last 2 weeks in college football? We've seen hot boards. We've seen agents putting coaches' names out there to be on those hot boards. We've seen coaches get contract extensions to stay where they're at, as well as coaches getting fired. And they say, well, agents, coaches, that's what they do. Well, guess what? Players are doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Their agents are putting feelers out there. Okay? Their agents are telling their client, who's the player, hey, this school's got interest in you. That school's got interest in you. Hey, you better be asking for this for the school you're at now. They better be willing to pay you this and that. All of those things are becoming much more into play, particularly now that you're not a playoff team. And I think that kids are thinking differently when you're not a playoff team. I think the agents are being more aggressive when you're not a playoff team. And I think that is the challenge in front of Tennessee and other teams that have been eliminated from the college football playoff.
Let me run this by you. I was talking to one of my buddies earlier today, and I don't agree with what he's saying. It's not going to happen, in my opinion. But, I mean, there's a lot of people that are probably in this line of thinking. Tennessee's not in the playoff anymore. Certainly you want to win these games and finish out strong. But what can help Tennessee take that next step? What can help Tennessee be as prepared for next year as possible? He said, play George McIntyre. I counter with, well, you still have Jake Merklinger on this roster as well. It's not like he's just not going to play. So, they both would have to play. But in this era of college athletics, man, it's so weird. This era of college football, you have Joey Aguilar, who doesn't have any eligibility that we know of, right? And he's come in and he's done so much more than you can ever ask for. And he's been so much fun. He's been exciting to watch. And again, I don't think they're going to do this, but what would you say to those fans in this line of thinking? Thank you, Joey. We love you, but let's look to next year. Let's play George or Jake, and let's see these guys get a whole lot of run. Because I know there's more than just that one buddy I talked to on Sunday that are probably thinking this now.
Yeah, I don't think you just scrap your season and just go. Now, if New Mexico State game goes the way you think it goes, Eric, you better get him in the game.
Mm-hmm.
You better let him go play. I mean, this business they did in UAB, that was the game, right, where he didn't play. That's you can't do that. Like, no, I mean, you get control of this game early. You're not waiting. You shouldn't wait and play a whole half with Joey and go change. Let those guys go play. Same thing with. I mean, it's not just George McIntyre. It's other freshmen at other positions that you have to look at. It's guys in the two deep who are trying to figure out what they want to do and where they're at. I mean, you better take full advantage of any opportunity that you had. At the same time, too, I don't think you want to send a message to your fans and to your program, we're done.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, guys, we're done. It's like, okay, we've hit the trade deadline and we're 27 games out of first place, so now we're just going to have a fire sale and we're going to get rid of everybody. That's not where you're supposed to be. This is not this is not how it works that you see with professional sports. The NFL trades away one of their best players because they're eliminated from playoff contention or what. I mean, no. I mean, you got to go play and finish out the season. But when you have a chance to play these guys, you better play them. Rodarius Jackson needs to be in a rotation.
Yep.
You need to see more out of Rodarius Jackson. Deshaun Brame needs to play more snaps.
Jaden Harmon.
Yeah, Jaden Harmon needs to play more snaps. I mean, you've got to take advantage of those guys. And then when you have a game where you can play multiple quarterbacks, you better do that early.
Yeah, but for the record, I agree with you. I wanted to get your thoughts on the record.
But no, I mean, I think it's a fair question because I think that's what a lot of people are asking. Because what do you do? I mean, somebody posted on here, hey, you better know what you have in McIntyre before you go into spring practice, and I get it. I don't disagree with that. You better also be having conversations with McIntyre and making sure McIntyre understands the plan and where you are and all of those types of things. Because, I mean, the agent representing George McIntyre, hey, there's 5 jobs in the SEC open? Is that what it is now? 4 or 5? 4? I guess
5. We got LSU, Auburn, Arkansas, Florida.
4.
I guess 4, yeah.
I
guess I'm not just counting Kentucky, but 4.
Right. You got 4 jobs open right now. So you got 4 new coaches going into those places. Guess what they're probably going to be looking for at those spots?
Quarterback.
Yeah.
Everybody's got to have one.
You got to have one. So you better be working your relationships. You better be having dialogue and conversations, not just at the quarterback position, but in a lot of positions, because there are going to be a lot of schools in this league who are looking for players. And why are a lot of people in at Tennessee and other SEC schools? Because they wanted to play in this league, and a lot of them are from the South. They don't want to go a long ways away. So you could see a lot of movement in this league with all the changes that are taking place.
Dustin, my apologies, I did not see your super chat here. He said the main issues have been mistakes, execution on the field, or penalties at the worst possible times. It's frustrating to have closed the talent gap only to fall short by hurting ourselves. Thoughts on that?
I don't disagree with Dustin at all. I mean, I think that there's, you walked out of Bryant-Denny Stadium and you didn't say, man, Tennessee's just outclassed. They're so far away. Obviously, at home against Georgia, you didn't say that. Last night, and again, I'm not taking anything away from Oklahoma, but you're not leaving that stadium last night going, man, they're miles better than Tennessee is. The penalties were better last night. That's Tennessee's best night on the penalty front in maybe 2 years. I'd have to go back and look at the numbers, but it's been a while since they've had a night like that. But the turnovers were just killers. And again, it's been all about the self-inflicted wounds on both sides of the ball. I don't want to just sit here and put it all on the offense. The defense has certainly had their self-inflicted wounds and contributions, and Tennessee coming up short in 3 games as well.
Do you guys think that if Starr hadn't stepped out of bounds, Tennessee could have possibly matched up the game or tied up the game or whatever? I will say that was play number 1 coming off the Idris Farouk forced fumble. It looked like a gain of 20 or whatever. Steps out of bounds, only gain of 5. Who's to know what happens at the end of this drive? But I mean, Brent, that was a setback, right? I mean, that was you had the turnover, play number 1, explosive play, and then got to come back, and they hand it to him again. He gets 2 yards. And then, of course, that's the Joey Aguilar sweep to the right, and it didn't go anywhere. I don't know if they would have went and scored a touchdown there, but I do think that was a massive point in that series that contributed to a 3-and-out. And then, of course, the next time they got the football, they went 3-and-out again.
Well, look where they ended up punting from on that drive.
Mm-hmm.
where you were going to flip the field or have a chance to flip the field when you look at how far Starr got on that run. The other thing you could have done there too is you were going to go fast. You were going to get into tempo and kind of get going there. So, I mean, it was a huge play. I don't have a magic 8-ball to say, man, that was just like, it's just like, I don't know if Tennessee gone up 14-0, if Oklahoma would have rolled over and played dead for you and you'd blown them out. But boy, it would have been a lot different at 14-0. Just like that drive would have been a lot different if you got 1st and 10 at the 37 moving forward there. So it was a huge play in the game for sure.
We'll continue to take your questions. We'll talk for about 30 more minutes. Matt Ray is going to join us in about 15 minutes to discuss Tennessee's 2 commits that they got here on a Sunday afternoon, so don't go anywhere. We'll continue on here Sunday Night Rocky Top Rewind presented by Spivey King and Spivey LLP. I want to give a quick shout out to the proud presenting sponsor of the Rocky Top Rewind each and every Sunday night right here at Volquest.com and on the YouTube channel. That is Spivey King and Spivey LLP. If you've got a problem, let them find a solution for you. That is TN Trial Lawyers. They specialize in things like criminal defense, family law, personal injuries, examples of which can be DUI, assault, divorce, custody, alimony, personal injuries such as car wrecks. Spivey King and Spivey's got 80 years of combined experience providing representation throughout state and federal courts of Northeast Tennessee. Matthew A. Spivey, J. Matt King, Richard A. Spivey, they're good guys, big-time Tennessee fans, and they want to help you. They've been in practice together since 2012. The firm has officially been in order since for 43 years, and they've won multiple awards. They've got attorneys who have been rated by super lawyers with Mid-South real trial experience. Whether you've been injured in a car accident, need help with a divorce, help with custody of your children, or you've been accused of a crime, Spivey King and Spivey LLP, they can help you. Free consultation by dialing this phone number, 423-245-4185, 423-245-4185. You can check them out online as well. That's at Spivey King and Spivey LLP.com. Spivey King and Spivey, if you got a problem, let them find a solution for you. That is TN Trial Lawyers. Also want to give a shout out to Game Time for being a part of today's show as well here on the Rocky Top Rewind. Game Time, it's the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's a hack for unlocking amazing tickets and experiences in just a few taps, whether it's college football games this football season, whether it's basketball games, that's getting going this weekend, whether it's concerts, comedy shows, whatever the case is, you can buy tickets to those events for the majority of the time by using the Game Time app. I'm a big fan of the Game Time app. We used it to go to some Smokies games this past summer. So simple, just a few taps. Got to pick my seat, my section. I saw some incredible deals as well. So we are big fans of the Game Time app. Used it several different times, and I think you will as well. One of my favorite things is the zone deals, where you can save even more when you choose the section. Okay, Game Time choose your seats, and you can watch the savings roll in as well. They got the lowest price guarantee, where Game Time's going to find you a cheaper ticket in the same section, or if you find one cheaper, they're going to credit you 110% of the difference. They've got the most flexible, the best customer service policy in all the ticketing industry. That is the Game Time people. Download the Game Time app, create an account, put in a redeem code ON3, $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Put in that account, redeem code ON3 for $20 off your first purchase. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. And finally, I want to give a shout out to Whataburger. There's one on the Strip now here in Knoxville. There's one coming in Powell, and you can start your morning with the breakfast you deserve at Whataburger. Plenty of options to choose from. You get a sweet, crispy honey butter chicken biscuit or a breakfast bowl, savory sausage or bacon, maybe even a big tasty breakfast burger with extra bacon, maybe some avocado as well. Whatever you want, just the way you like it. Whataburger serves breakfast from 11 p.m. to 11 a.m.
A Whataburger breakfast with extra bacon? That sounds like a great overnight snack. Welcome back to the Rocky Top Rewind. I'm Brent Hubbs along with Eric Kane. Hey, Eric, let's go back to the questions here. Let's bring up a realistic one. I don't know if you can see that one. It may have bumped down. I think most people predicted either a 9-3 or 8-4 season. I predicted 9-3, so nothing is surprising so far. Did anyone predict a record better than 9-3 based on this roster and the schedule that they play? Not worried about the records. I mean, I picked them 9-3. I think you did too, Eric. But I do think it's interesting. You said this earlier off the top that, boy, if you'd have told somebody back in July that 9-3, they'd went, hey, man, that's a good year. Coach Heupel did a really good job with this team. Is it just different because of the emotions of a loss today, Eric? Is it different because you feel like this Tennessee team has just beat themselves, and you were good enough to beat Georgia at home, and you were obviously plenty of talented enough to beat Oklahoma at home if you had played better. What do you think or is it just the fact that Joey Aguilar's thrown for a bunch of yards that's changed the narrative that now 9-3, 8-4 is a real disappointment when you consider where Tennessee was at the end of April, particularly on the offensive side?
I think it's a little bit of everything you just said. Again, if you would have went back and somebody would have came and told us in June, hey, this Joey Aguilar cat, man, he's going to lead the SEC in passing. He's going to put up over 400 yards or whatever against Georgia. He's going to do this. He's going to he'll throw some picks, but he's going to throw a ton and a ton. I mean, I expected him to throw some interceptions and throw some touchdowns and everything. I didn't expect this. And so I think that's the biggest variable in all this. It's like, okay, you've kind of been, I don't want to say limited or anything like that. Like you've not been as good at the quarterback position the last 2 years. You just haven't. And you are this year. And so having seen that and seeing this offense and the chunk plays return and all that, I think that's the biggest variable in there. And then, of course, you go back to the Georgia game. You could have won that game 17 different ways if one thing went your way, or if you made one stop, or you made one play and you just didn't. And that's frustrating. Of course, there's a kick, obviously, to win that game, and you missed that. Looking at last night, you and I have been talking about all the mistakes Tennessee made that could have changed the game in a different way. So I think it's a little bit of all the above. Also, like back in the summer, I think we all kind of expected Tennessee's offense to run the ball a little bit better, but the defense yet again to lead the way. Nobody saw Tennessee being without its two corners for pretty much the entire year. Some of the injuries it dealt with on the defensive line, and then overall, more than anything, just the inconsistent play of the defense. So I think, at least from the offensive standpoint, specifically Joey Aguilar, that changes expectations during the season. Because you can go out there and score with the best of anybody and put up a lot of points. So I think that if you do finish at 9-3 or whatever, it does feel like a little bit of a disappointment because it feels like you could have been so much better. That's kind of where I'm at on that whole thing. I think Joey Aguilar is the biggest variable in that, and I think expectations changed specifically in that Georgia game when you're like, okay, here we go. Let's see what this year can be.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. And I think it's a combination of things. One, all of us thought this defense would be better than what they've been. And so you thought, man, if they could find enough offense, and they found more offense than you ever dreamed. It's not just Joey Aguilar. It's what Brazel has done, right? That's just kind of come out of left field. And then how much Mike Matthews and Braylon Staley have taken off. Like, the biggest question marks you had in the preseason, Tennessee answered, which elevates your expectations, and your disappointment comes from the place where you thought you had your answers to begin with. So that's unique. It's interesting how perception of everything changes as you go along through the season.
Yeah, and I mean that's expected as well. I mean it's a long football season, so things can change. I think everything you've gotten from Joey Aguilar has just been so much more, and so I think that's it. Donovan asked this a while ago, and then somebody else, it might have been Donovan again, kind of asked about the general manager question. The last part of this question, Coach Heupel ain't getting fired. It's 1 out of 10. Yeah, he's not getting fired. First part of the question says, Coach Heupel needs to give up play calling so clock management can be better and tempo should be used more. Somebody moving forward, and maybe this is something, in that self-scout, and they did a big-time self-scout at the end of last year, and they made some adjustments, and it's been for the better. Tennessee doesn't have a general manager, off the field or anything, but maybe in-game, on the sideline, someone that sits there and says, hey, we need to do this. Hey, we need to do this. Hey, you have 2 timeouts. Because Heupel clearly is very involved in the offensive game plan with Joey Halsley and very involved in the offensive play calling during the game. Do you think that he could limit himself calling plays in the future, or do you think Tennessee could get somebody to kind of help him with that in games? What do you make of all this? Because it does look like Heupel's involved in pretty much everything, and maybe some things could slip through the cracks at points and times.
Well, I think if you're going to have somebody like that guy's got to be upstairs, and he's going to be in the headset. I can tell you this is my first year being on the sideline, and it's really chaotic down there. It's just kind of unusual. I mean, I'm sitting there last night and I'm like, why is the clock running? Why is the clock running? He stepped out of bounds. Clock should be stopped there. And it's like, oh yeah, it's outside 2 minutes. So they don't stop the clock anymore in college football. Now, I mean, a coach should know that. I mean, I'm not comparing myself to that, but I think if you're going to have somebody and you need to have somebody like that, it's got to be a guy up top who is in a controlled environment, is non-emotional. And I think that's hard because I think guys get emotional even in the box. So, I mean, it's got to be somebody who's very level-headed, who's thinking, okay, like for example, last night, I mean, when are you going to kick that field goal on that drive? Because you're managing the time. Like, do you think about kicking on second down or and save 40 seconds? Because you got to have 2 scores anyway. Like, is anybody putting that thought into somebody's head? I mean, the last extra point that Oklahoma kicked, I mean, you should have jumped off sides 9 times. What does it matter? It's a half distance to the goal to try to block that extra point to time it perfect. Because if you block it there, then it's an 8-point game instead of a 9-point game. You don't need 2 scores. You know what I mean? Like, is somebody, and I don't know, maybe somebody is, but is somebody going, hey, this is what we got to go all out block here. Everything is block on this extra point. It's hard to block an extra point. But are people thinking that way? I don't know what all is said in there. There's no question Josh Heupel is heavily involved in play calling and decision making there. I don't think that's ever going to change because I think that is who Josh Heupel is. I think that's to the core of his DNA. I'm not sure he's going to view himself as not being that heavily involved in the play calling. I don't know who's calling it. I just know Josh Heupel has a constant conversation going on in his headset when Tennessee is on offense. I mean, there's always a conversation that he is actively participating in every time Tennessee has the ball on offense. And as for the GM thing, I think, Josh Heupel and Danny White said back in the summer that they were comfortable with the setup that they have. That's always subject to change. Billy High was recently named the Executive Director of Football Management, whatever that means.
Sounds like a GM to me.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that. I'm not sure what that entails. And I think the thing with GMs is everybody's GM situation is different. At Cal, Ron Rivera is running everything. Justin Wilcox is answering to Ron Rivera. Okay. There are other places where the GM is getting paid a lot of money to basically evaluate the talent. And that's their only role. Jim Nagy's role at Oklahoma, we don't exactly know, but he didn't leave the job he had with the Senior Bowl to go to Oklahoma just to evaluate high school kids. Like, that's not just a title for the sake of a title. He's got a greater role there. So we'll see. A lot of people are doing it a lot of different ways, just like they do in the NFL.
We're going to get to Matt right here in just a moment. Do want to take one more question from Brad here, and he wants to know about Tyree West. Seemed like a nasty injury. Tennessee had a lot of guys get banged up. Mac Matthews came back in. David Sanders came back in. Joshua Josephs came back in. The list goes on and on. Tyree West did not come back in. You're down there on the field. What did you see? And, of course, over the course of Sunday, if you've heard anything.
He came back out and was on the sidelines in street clothes in the second half. Was not on crutches or was not, being assisted with any kind of medical equipment or anything. So we'll see what the long-term deal there is. Obviously, he was banged up pretty good on that one. But he was back out there in street clothes in the second half. They get a full week off this week. Obviously, he's not going to do anything, and we'll figure out. I've not heard anything new today on Tyree West.
Matt Ray joining the party here on the Rocky Top Rewind. Matt, a busy day for you and AP. A couple of commits here on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, started the day out with Princeton Uepo, a guy that kind of held true to fashion for what he is. I mean, he's a massive individual, a guy that Tennessee's liked for a long time, and a guy that just you always hear that he's in town, but you'd never see him, which is surprising given his frame. And we finally started to get to catch up with him some. He's just a guy that doesn't talk a whole lot, and he just woke up this morning, dropped a random commitment graphic, and he's in, and it's been trending that way for a little bit. We talked about him after the Arkansas visit. He was talking when he's talking about Tennessee, referred to Tennessee as we and us. And when you start to hear those things, you start to get that trend that it's starting to head that direction. And Tennessee's done a really nice job of recruiting him. And He took some visits this fall, went down to Alabama. Ohio State's called around and checked on him. So some bigger programs very interested in him, but a guy that's raw and still has a little ways to go in terms of the fundamental side of things, but you just can't teach what he has in that size. And, Tennessee's excited to get him in the class. And then, shortly followed that up by adding Luka Wolf, the Cal tight end commitment originally from the NFL Academy over in London. He checked out of his official visit this morning, and before he checked out, he let Tennessee know that he was in the class. He was originally planning to wait a little bit longer to announce that decision, but got his graphic and fired away, and he joined Tennessee's class, and a guy that really looks the part as a tight end. When Emmanuel Okoye came out of the NFL Academy, to me, he always looked a little bit more like an edge, but a freaky athlete. Luka Wolf, when he walks, he looks like a tight end. He's got that frame. I think he measured in around 246 pounds on this visit. So a guy that's really versatile and really starting to come into his own, can be a hybrid top pass catcher, but it's going to show up at already a good weight once he gets to Tennessee in the winter.
So he flipped from Cal. He's been committed to Cal for quite some time. This is a part of the 2026 class, and a guy that is going to come in and probably a mid-year enrollee and come in and provide some depth as early as next year, right?
Yeah, that's the hope. His plan is to try to be here as a mid-year guy. There's still some wrinkles that could, get in the way of that coming over from the international side of things. But what he told me today was the plan is to be here in the mid-year and get started at Tennessee. And a guy that, you're right, yeah, he can provide some depth just from the simple fact that he's already up to speed in terms of his frame. He's an athlete. So those two things allow him that he can at least get some opportunity.
Let me jump in. Sorry. I got one more question on this one. And you kind of spoke on it a moment ago with how you were describing him, but you looked at Emmanuel Okoye and you knew from the get-go, project.
Yeah.
It's going to be developmental. I get the sense that Luka Wolf's a little bit more beyond that. You mentioned his weight and kind of the way he carries himself a little bit. I mean, there's always going to be an adjustment, don't get me wrong, but kind of where is he on that scale from like Emmanuel Okoye a couple years ago?
Yeah, development's still going to be key for Luka Wolf, right? And he knows that. He's aware of that, but probably a little bit more refined as a pass catcher at this point. On the blocking side of things today, he was talking about the ability to be violent as a blocker. That's something that Tennessee's talked to him about. He really liked that part of the sales pitch. So you hear him talking tight end things. His focus has primarily been as a tight end at the NFL Academy. So he started to get some development there and a program that's really good over there. So I think for me, he's just a little bit further along in that process than Emmanuel Okoye was at this time.
But he's been involved in that program longer than Emmanuel was. Because, Emmanuel's in a situation where it wasn't just the physical development. He was learning some basic rules of football when he got here. Right. This is different, right, Matt? Or is it similar from that standpoint?
Yeah, no, this is a little bit different. He's been in that program longer. He understands football. He understands the ebbs and flows and what goes into it. When you hear him talk today, he's talking high level football. He wants to, he's in tune with those things, and that's really what played into his decision. He feels like that as he's continuing to learn and grow in the game, he's going to get more of that high level football side of things at Tennessee.
All right, Matt, they had a bunch of other guys in as well. A couple of guys who were surprised. You had J.J. Finch in town. You had DGG, I guess, back in town with all of his family as well. Kind of give a broad base kind of viewpoint from Tennessee. A lot of people want to know, whether you lose the game, what does that mean for recruiting, all those types of things. What's your biggest overarching takeaway from the weekend to this point?
Yeah, that's a little bit of a different feeling when they're leaving Neyland Stadium with a loss, because it just hasn't happened a lot in the last few years. They've capitalized on these big weekends outside of Georgia. They've won against Florida. They've won against Alabama. I think recruits saw last night a fantastic environment, and it was a fantastic environment inside of Neyland Stadium. And they saw a football team that, just struggled at different times. They saw, these pieces that everybody else saw and they take them for what they are and they move past them. A lot of it has been what they've had conversations with this coaching staff about and how they can fit in. And, overall, I think it was still about as good of a weekend as Tennessee could have asked for, given the loss. A lot of guys left this visit continuing to say Tennessee moved the needle for me. And the thing about this is Tennessee got way out ahead in the 2027 class, in my opinion, by getting some of those guys here back in the summer for the barbecue. And to end that, they already had a good feel for what campus is like. They had seen a lot of these things. So this weekend was more about the football side of things. And as we started to catch up with guys, you continue to hear more of those things. First one I'd probably touch on, Jordan Carter, decommitted from Texas A&M yesterday morning, ends up in Knoxville late yesterday afternoon and checks out Tennessee. Caught up with him this afternoon. Visit went really well. He committed to Texas A&M back in October of last year, and Tennessee never went away. Rodney Garner, Josh Heupel, Coach Chop, all those guys at different times have recruited him and pitched to him, look, this is what we do on the defensive front. This is how you can fit in. He's really looking for a comfortable fit, and that's one of the reasons he pulled away from Texas A&M after being committed for so long. The longer that kind of played out, the less comfortable he got with that fit, and Tennessee showed really well for him. He set an official visit for the weekend of New Mexico State. Auburn was another school prior to him decommitting that had been involved. Georgia Tech also involved. I'd somewhat be surprised if he's back down at Auburn at some point. He was originally planning to OV there for the Iron Bowl. I would be pretty surprised now if that's the case. He's going to see Georgia Tech on an official visit. He'll see Tennessee, and he'll make a decision. But I think Tennessee definitely put their best foot forward with him this weekend. And then a man of few words, J.J. Finch. He just quietly slides into town. Another guy that Tennessee's been working to get to campus for some time, the Alabama defensive line commit. And as I talked to him, he started to open up a little bit more. And, he talked about how hard this decision was for him back in the summer when he initially chose Alabama. He's been to Tennessee just as many times as he's been to Alabama throughout the course of this thing. He's going to see Alabama one more time as he's checking final boxes, and then he's going to go home and make a decision. But, he was pretty clear that as it stands right now, this is a two-team race, and he's going to really weigh things out. He sees a lot of those same things that I talked about with Jordan Carter. The opportunity to get on the field early, that ability to rotate and, have a chance. And that's what he's looking for. And depth chart's going to be key. And Tennessee's losing some guys on the interior. So they've got some opportunity. And he's really intrigued by, the opportunity to be developed by Rodney Garner. So we'll see what kind of happens with him. Tennessee doesn't have an official visit in the back pocket for him. So they're just going to have to try to build off this and win this one out down the stretch. Who else did you ask about, Brent? DGG?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, obviously your offensive headliner in the 27 class for the weekend, and it was here with multiple family members, mom, dad, aunt, uncle, some other extended family, and he had a good time. I haven't caught up with him in an official capacity yet. But, just checking in with him, he had a really good time. He spent a lot of time with his teammates down on the field. He got a lot of time with the staff. Tennessee, in my opinion, just continues to check boxes for him. The family side of things, he lights up when you talk about that. And Tennessee is hitting that box right now. They've done a really good job with their last two visits, from Arkansas to this one with Oklahoma, with mom and dad and now the extended family, showing them that they're as much of a priority as he is. And I think for Tennessee, that's been a big deal.
All right, Matt, my last question to you is how much movement are we going to see here with this class that's going to sign in early December? Legend Bay, I guess, was at Ohio State.
Yep.
Kind of what's going on there? How much fighting is there to hold on to what you have? How much movement do you anticipate? Obviously, there'll be some with the coaching changes that are taking place, but otherwise, how much movement and how hard of a fight is Tennessee in with Legend Bay right now?
Yeah, I think certainly you've got to watch for Ohio State at this point. They're recruiting Legend Bay a little bit differently, than Tennessee has to this point in terms of positional fit. So they're selling him in a little bit of a different way. They bring him in for an official visit, and they're going to have to fight to the finish line for that one, in my opinion, if Ohio State really wants to be in it. I think it's pretty indicative, the fact that he went up there for an official visit to get that deeper look. As far as the rest of the 2026 class goes, it's pretty intriguing to me that we're here in early November and we've got as much movement in it as we do, with as many guys that are kind of left out there. It felt like Tennessee's had so much of the hay in the barn for so long now that it just didn't feel like this was ever going to get here, because we went through a couple of months where it was like you just wouldn't hear maybe a name here, a name there, but now it's JJ Finch, Jordan Carter. They're looking at bringing in Franklin Whitley on an official visit potentially that last weekend in November. He was here this past weekend. Jalen Thomas, the D lineman out of JUCO in Mississippi, he was here earlier in the month, earlier in October. Will most likely be back at some point this month. So you've just got more names that are continuing to kind of come around. Luca Wolf, you add him today. So I think this 2026 class is very interesting because of what you said, Brent, the way that things are continuing to play out across the country, different jobs coming open. I think some of that to a point right now helps Tennessee a little bit, because schools are going to make a run at some of these open some of these classes that are without a head coach, right? And the timing of the signing period, I think, works in your favor a little bit because it's right there at that first week of December and the season's finishing up. So it's a little bit easier to maybe go poach some of those other guys. But to this point, haven't heard of a lot of movement going on with anyone else in Tennessee's class. But this is just one of those deals where when you've got all these open positions, you never know now. You never know who's going to come calling for what kid and how they value that kid versus how you value that kid. So it's one of those deals you never know in those days leading up to signing day. So we'll see.
And another question that you don't have the answer to, but you're talking about all these spots and there's no cap and all this. But I mean, Tennessee's got 24. Yeah. And we talked about like 15 kids already for the class of 26. Like, realistically, in your mind, man, I mean, how many do you think they could take if they could make it work? I mean, how many more do you think they could take?
I don't know. It's a fantastic question. I mean, if you can get Jordan Carter and you can get JJ Finch, you take both of them. I mean, so how does it look at that point? Because you're talking about some other defensive linemen, that you're involved with Jalen Thomas and Franklin Whitley. Like, I don't know how those numbers shake out for you. Are there other positions that they're not done at? I think there's positions that if they could get the right guy to campus, then they try to make a run. And there's some guys out there, if they got them to campus, they're certainly not telling them no. So, I mean, realistically, I think you could go as high as adding, 4 or 5 more guys to this class. Do they get there? I don't know. Maybe they only add a couple of more. But I think the right guys, you could see them add 4, 5, 6 guys. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
Well, and you never know who's leaving your roster, so you may have a bunch of roster spots. I mean, right now you recruit as if there's no number, and you just take who you can get, and then you figure it out. I think is the only way you can do it, particularly as you're moving from 85 to 105.
Yep.
Also, though, with that transfer portal in January, I mean, you might have a good idea of who's leaving your roster, but how many times have we been ready for a guy to enter the portal and he never does, right? But signing day at the beginning of December. That's going to be
that month from signing day in December to the transfer portal open in January is like, I mean, it's like no man's land out there. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, well, I mean,
you're
gonna have conversations with some guys, and some of them you're gonna just say, "Hey, you need to go find another place." Yep. That's the world we're living in now. I mean, it's just, I mean, you're gonna keep the best players. If you can trade up and get a better player, or you think a guy who's got a better upside to you, you're probably going to trade up. That's how it works. I mean, if they can leave you at any point in time, you can leave them at any point in time before they sign, or even after they sign, and you tell them that you don't have a spot for them back. That's just the world we live in now. It's much more cutthroat than it ever used to be.
No doubt about that. Very much cutthroat, and it feels like it's getting crazier. It feels like it's getting a little bit easier. At least the month of December got easier, kind of getting some of those guardrails up there. But still, it'll be wild, and we'll see how Tennessee handles it, and we'll see how Tennessee handles the rest of this football season off this coming weekend. Back against New Mexico State on the 15th, and at Florida the 22nd. Back home to round out the regular season against Vanderbilt at the end of the month. Matt Ray, thank you for joining us here on the Rocky Top Rewind. Remember, programming note, no Rocky Top Rewind next Sunday night because of the open date. We'll be back following the New Mexico State game right here on the Volquest.com YouTube channel. The show is presented by our great friends over at Spivey King and Spivey LLP. If you got a problem, let them find a solution for you. TN Trial Lawyers. Consultation free. If you pick up the phone and dial 423-245-4185. Again, that's Spivey King and Spivey LLP.com online as well. For Brent Hubbs, Matt Ray, I'm Eric Kane. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Rocky Top Rewind.